at Minicoy.
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world with me, Deepika, coming up in the next 1 hour. India and Philippines exchange key MOUs in defence, space, tourism and other key sectors. Prime Minister Modi says India-Philippines united by shared values. Philippines President extends support to India's fight against terrorism. India counters Trump's tariff threat, terms US-European Union criticism unjustified and unreasonable, says will take all necessary steps to safeguard national interest and economy. India observes 6 years of Article 370's abrogation that marks a historic turning point in Jammu and Kashmir's transformational journey in India's constitutional and political landscape. United Nations Security Council to hold special session on Tuesday to discuss hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. Good afternoon to all the viewers joining us at this afternoon broadcast. To begin with the latest, Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., who is on a 5-day visit to India, was welcomed by Guard of Honor and accorded a ceremonial welcome at the forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan. The visiting dignitary was warmly greeted by President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. President Marcos Jr. reaffirmed the alliance and the partnership India and Philippines share in strengthening the bond. The leader also said that Indo-Pacific is the correct evolution of Asia-Pacific.
It is a reaffirmation of the alliance and the partnership that we are strengthening. Where we used to refer to the Asia-Pacific region, we now refer to as the Indo-Pacific region, which is I think, a correct evolution of that understanding because of the global nature of all of politics and of all of trade and all of the economy. And to build upon what we already have had, but certainly to explore the many opportunities that have arisen in the past few years because of the new technologies and the changing state of the global economy and the geopolitics around us now.
Later, President Marcos Jr. also paid his tributes to Mahatma Gandhi at Raj Ghat by laying a wreath at Mahatma Gandhi's memorial. The leader shared commitment to the ideals of truth and non-violence. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Philippines President Marcos Jr. at Hyderabad House in New Delhi. The leaders held comprehensive discussions aimed at further cementing enduring friendship and strong bilateral relations. While India and Philippines share close bonds based on the foundation of civilizational, historical and people-to-people connections. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Philippines President Marcos Jr. held delegation-level talks. They discussed various aspects of boosting India-Philippines ties in a host of sectors. Further, Prime Minister Narendra Modi witnessed the exchange of MOUs and attended the joint press meeting with Philippines President Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr. And DNU correspondent Jessica Taneja joins us for more. Good afternoon, Jessica. Tell us first about the key MOU signed between India and Philippines today.
Well, it has been an important day for both the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President of Philippines, Marcos Jr. The interaction that we saw just a short while ago came with multiple announcements, especially when it comes to defense, science and tech, as well as also digital infrastructure development. And India has made significant progress when it comes to the recent past in, developing various different kind of infrastructure projects, especially quick investment plans. Few of them were also launched a few years ago, and the expectations of announcements from this visit as well. Now it's a 5-day tour, so you'd expect that he's come with a high-level business delegation as well. So multiple opportunities for the two to engage in bilateral cooperation. The trade has enhanced over the years. Philippines is also part of India's, not just India's Look East policy, but also the Mahasagar vision in the Indian Ocean when it comes to, the naval preparedness or, looking at the threats of the territorial integrity, especially when it comes to coercion in the South China Sea. And the Philippines is an important partner for India in the Indo-Pacific maritime cooperation as well. So certainly the diplomatic ties the last 75 years are only strengthened over time and expected to go much further with the announcement from President Marcos Jr. To the tune of starting direct flights between the two countries and also allowing visa-free for Indians to enter Philippines is certainly going to be advancing the ties much further, not just in terms of tourism, but also cultural cooperation, which has benefited this relationship even in the past. So, this meeting happening between Prime Minister Modi along with the President of Philippines, Marcos Jr., is significant in more ways than one. The two did meet last year at the ASEAN summit, which was held in Lao PDR. But this is, of course, one of their major bilateral meetings, and certainly leading to fruition and announcements that would benefit not just the Philippines, but also India. And with India ramping up its infrastructure development in the Philippines, would certainly go on to help a long way to our country that would require that kind of help.
And also, Philippines President condoled the loss that many of the victims faced during the Pahalgam terror attack, and also voiced his concern and also support in India's fight against terrorism. Tell us how important it becomes when we talk about India's global outreach program, in addition to India's strong voice and stand against terrorism. Jessica.
Well, you did hear President talk about condemning the terrorist attack that took place in Pahalgam in Kashmir. Well, certainly, it supports India's ambitions to sort of combat terrorism on a global scale and carry its mission of promoting anti-terrorism, especially when we've seen the recent spate of attacks from Pakistan-sponsored terrorism, be it the TRF and its listing as, a potential terrorist organization, both by the United States as well as the United Nations, comes at a time when this certainly sort of gives much relief on the global front when it comes to India raising concerns about terror emanating from its neighborhood and constantly sponsored by a state called Pakistan. And there have been few mentions on various countries sort of aligning with India on its idea of promoting and making the world more aware about how these terrorist activities continue to disrupt activities, not just both economic but social and cultural as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us. Moving on, addressing joint press meeting, Prime Minister Modi said that this year efforts are underway to launch a direct flight between Delhi and Manila.
Mutual legal assistance और ट्रांसफर ऑफ सेंटेंस पर्सन्स के विषयों पर आज हुए समझौतों से हमारी सुरक्षा साझेदारी को और बल मिलेगा। फ्रेंड्स, भारतीय पर्यटकों को वीजा फ्री एंट्री देने के फिलीपींस के निर्णय का हम स्वागत करते हैं। भारत ने भी फिलीपींस के पर्यटकों को फ्री ई वीजा सुविधा देने का फैसला लिया है। इस साल दिल्ली और मनीला के बीच डायरेक्ट फ्लाइट्स शुरू करने के लिए काम किया जाएगा।
And the Indian government has strongly hit back at the US after Donald Trump threatened to substantially raise tariffs on goods from India over its purchase of Russian oil. Well, in a statement issued by the Ministry of External Affairs, the government stated it has been targeted by the United States and European Union over its purchase of Russian oil. It said that India began importing from Russia because traditional supplies were diverted to Europe after the outbreak of the conflict. The United States at that time actively encouraged such imports by India for strengthening global energy market stability. The government added that India's imports are meant to ensure predictable and affordable energy costs to the Indian consumer. They are a necessity compelled by global market situation. However, it is revealing that the very nations criticizing India are themselves indulging in trade with Russia. So unlike our case, such trade is not even a vital national compulsion. The ministry put forth figures of European Union's oil trade with Russia, saying that in year 2024, they had a bilateral trade of 67.5 billion euros in goods with Russia. So in addition, it had trade in services estimated at 17.2 billion euros in 2023. Well, this is significantly more than India's total trade with Russia that year or subsequently. European imports of LNG in 2024, in fact, reached a record 16.5 million tons, surpassing the last record of 15.21 million tons in the year 2022. The government also mentioned that Europe-Russia trade includes not just energy, but also fertilizers, mining products, chemicals, iron and steel, and machinery, along with transport equipment. And talking about the US, MEA said that America continues to import from Russia uranium hexafluoride for its nuclear industry, palladium for its EV industry, fertilizers as well as chemicals. Well, the Indian government has also further stated that in this scenario, the targeting of India is unjustified and unreasonable. It also clearly stated that like any major economy, India will take all necessary measures to safeguard its national interests and economic security. Time to take a short break, but still to come on the other side. Around 10,000 lightning flashes lit up Hong Kong skies as rain continued to drench the city, leading to severe flooding situation. Over 190 countries are working to reach an agreement over the next fortnight on the first ever global plastics treaty. And Brazil's Supreme Court issues house arrest order for former President Jair Bolsonaro.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Moving on to West Asia updates now. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Monday that he would convene his security cabinet this week to discuss how to instruct the military to meet his war goals in Gaza. Netanyahu said that he will direct the military how to achieve the objectives of his government, including defeating Hamas and getting Israeli hostages released. Now, this comes as ceasefire talks between Israel and the Islamic group Hamas are stalled.
We are in the middle of an intense war in which we have achieved very significant and historic accomplishments. Because we are not divided, because we stood together and fought together. We must continue to stand together and fight together in order to achieve all the war's objectives, defeating the enemy, freeing our hostages, and ensuring that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel. Later this week, I will convene the cabinet to instruct the IDF on how to achieve these three objectives, all of them without exception.
Well, Israel will allow gradual and controlled entry of goods to Gaza through local merchants, GAT, the Israeli military agency that coordinates aid, said on Tuesday. Now, this aims to increase the volume of aid entering the Gaza Strip while reducing reliance on aid collection by the United Nations and international organizations. Meanwhile, Canada delivered humanitarian assistance through airdrops to Gaza. Now, so far, 120 food aid packages for Gaza's residents were airdropped by 6 countries, including Canada. The other 5 were Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Germany, and Belgium. The United Nations Security Council will hold a special session on Tuesday morning to discuss the 50 hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza. The meeting has been called on a request by Israeli Foreign Minister. Saar had pushed the discussions after harrowing videos of hostages released by Hamas in recent days. Houthi rebels have claimed responsibility for launching a Palestine-2 hypersonic ballistic missile at Israel's Ben Gurion airport. The Israeli military reported intercepting the missile launched from Yemen with its air force. Now, since the Gaza conflict began on the 7th of October in the year 2023, the Houthis have frequently targeted Israel with missiles and drones, most intercepted, prompting Israeli airstrikes on Houthi targets in Yemen. The rebels also continue attack on Red Sea and Gulf of Aden shipping, drawing US-led retaliatory strikes. Now, over 190 countries will try to break an impasse and reach an agreement over the next fortnight on the first ever global plastics treaty that will create a legally binding framework to end plastic pollution, including in the marine environment. Now, this will be the second installment of the 5th meeting of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee of the United Nations, which will take place in Geneva, Switzerland. Negotiators will pick up from the previous meeting in Busan, South Korea, last December, where talks had collapsed over critical and unresolved issues. Plastic pollution has reached even the most remote corners of the planet today. 460 million tons of plastics are produced annually, of which only 9% is recycled, while the rest leaks into the environment. Moving on, Brazil's Supreme Court on Monday issued a house arrest order for former President Jair Bolsonaro, who is standing a trial for allegedly plotting a coup. Justice Alexandre de Moraes said in his decision that the right-wing firebrand did not comply with the judicial restraining orders imposed on him last month. He further also banned Bolsonaro from receiving visits, with exceptions for lawyers and people authorized by the court, and use of a cell phone either directly or through third parties. Now, the restrictions on Bolsonaro were imposed over allegations that he courted the interference of Trump, who recently tied steep new tariffs on Brazilian goods. The former Brazilian leader is facing charges that he conspired with dozens of his allies to overturn his 2022 electoral loss. Bolsonaro's press representative confirmed the house arrest order and restrictions on using a cell phone. Moving on, a video captured the dramatic scene when a tornado hit near a geopark in China's Inner Mongolia region on Monday, sending debris flying near the long funnel cloud as people looked on. The footage showed clouds swirling above the narrow brown tornado column as a vortex of strong wind gusts sent debris flying everywhere. No casualties were reported from the incident. Hong Kong on Tuesday recorded its highest daily rainfall in August since 1884, the city's weather observatory said, after the highest tier rainstorm warning was issued for the 4th time in 8 days. Hong Kong has been paralyzed by severe flooding after heavy rains triggered the 4th black rainstorm warning in 8 days. Torrential rains on Hong Kong and the high-tech cities surrounding South China's Pearl River Delta, shutting hospitals, schools and law courts, and turning the Asian financial centre's many staircases into waterfalls. At Queen Mary Hospital, severe flooding inundated several areas and disrupted its accident and emergency services. The Drainage Service Department deployed pumps to alleviate the flooding at the department's entrance, restoring some functionality. The warning indicating over 70 mm of hourly rainfall led to school closures, temporary shelters and disrupted hospital services, including at Queen's Mary Hospital. Public transport slowed down and some subway exits were also closed. Social media showed cars nearly submerged in Suong Kwan O. Neighbouring Shenzhen issued a rare red warning. Scientists link the intensifying global weather events to climate change driven by fossil fuel emissions. Now, Beijing has lifted its red rainstorm warning on Tuesday after heavy rains prompted the evacuation of over 82,000 people amid flood fears. The Municipal Weather Office warned of lingering risk of landslides and isolated downpours in areas like Myeon, where 42 died last week. Floodwaters have receded, leaving debris and damaged infrastructure. Authorities admitted gaps in disaster readiness and urged swift restoration of normalcy. China's Public Security Ministry cautioned against disaster-related rumors. Recent extreme weather conditions linked to climate change has also battered Hong Kong and southern China, highlighting the growing global challenge of intense weather events. Moving on, Japan recorded a scorching 41.6 degrees Celsius in Isesaki on Tuesday, breaking the previous record of 41.2 degrees Celsius set just last week, according to the Japan Meteorological Agency. This new high surpasses the 41.1 degrees Celsius recorded in 2020 and 2018. The agency warns that temperatures may climb further as a relentless heat wave grips the nation. The authorities have issued heat stroke alerts, urging the residents to stay hydrated and avoid outdoor activities. The extreme heat attributed to climate change has strained power grids and raised health concerns. Similar record-breaking temperatures are being reported globally, highlighting the escalating impact of global warming. Meanwhile, northern Vietnam is sweltering under a blistering heat wave, with 17 places across 7 provinces reporting record highs for the month of August, and electricity demand spiking as people try to stay cool, the authorities said on Tuesday. Temperatures peaked on Sunday and Monday across the densely populated Red River Delta region, a hugely important industrial and agricultural area, with the capital Hanoi experiencing its first ever August day above 40 degrees Celsius. Now, the normally bustling streets of Hanoi were quieter on Tuesday as locals hid from the burning heat. Iran ordered government offices in 15 of its 31 provinces, including Tehran, to close or reduce hours on Wednesday to curb power consumption amid a severe heat wave, state media reported. Temperatures exceeding 50 degrees Celsius in southern regions since mid-July have strained the power grid, causing rolling blackouts. The closures, prompted by the Energy Ministry, aim to manage electricity and water shortages worsened by Iran's worst drought in a century. Tehran has also cut mains water pressure due to dwindling reservoirs. Emergency services remain operational. The heat wave underscores global challenges from escalating climate-driven extreme weather events. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world in brief. As part of an ongoing investigation, authorities in Mexico uncovered remains of 32 people on Monday. So far, 15 bodies have been identified as officials work to identify the rest and to ascertain the cause of death. The area is one of the most violent regions of Mexico. Preparations are underway in Japan to commemorate 80th anniversary of the atomic bombing in Hiroshima. The ceremony is scheduled at Hiroshima's Peace Memorial Park. Citizens from all over the country are gathering to attend the memorial scheduled on Wednesday. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on the other side. Up next, we'll get you an in-depth analysis of the growing bilateral relationship between India and Philippines. And up next, we'll get you the latest update on changing weather patterns across India as well.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time to quickly recap top headlines of the hour. India and Philippines exchange key MOUs in defence, space, tourism and other key sectors. Prime Minister Modi says India-Philippines united by shared values. Philippines President extends support to India's fight against terrorism. India counters Trump's tariff threat, terms US-European Union criticism unjustified and unreasonable, says will take all necessary steps to safeguard national interest and economy. India observes 6 years of Article 370's abrogation that marks a historic turning point in Jammu and Kashmir's transformational journey in India's constitutional and political landscape. United Nations Security Council to hold a special session on Tuesday to discuss hostage held by Hamas in Gaza. And now our top story, Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is on a 5-day India visit. Now his visit holds special significance as India and Philippines are celebrating 75 years of diplomatic relations. While our diplomatic relations are new, our civilizational contacts date back to ancient times. And to talk more on India-Philippines bilateral ties, we are now joined by Ambassador Anil Vatva. Good afternoon, Ambassador. Now, how crucial is this visit, the first visit rather, by the Philippines President Marcos Jr. to India, and how will this pave way towards strengthening bilateral relationship between the two important nations, as both of them hold a lot of importance in the maritime sector specifically?
So I think India and Philippines have enjoyed multifaceted and very cordial relations in the past few years. In recent times, we've seen that because of the tensions that have arisen in the South China Sea and the threat to the security situation, freedom of navigation, etc., in that area, both India and Philippines have got together and have started collaborating a lot in terms of defense, security, and especially in terms of Coast Guard and service-to-service arrangements. But today we've seen a whole range of new MOUs which have been signed. And these not only concern the strategic partnership and a roadmap about what India and Philippines will do till 2029, but also some very important sectors. For example, tourism was a much neglected sector so far, but the MOU that has been signed today and simultaneously the announcements about easing of visa restrictions, in fact making visas free for Indians to go to Philippines and India making it an e-visa free for Filipinos to come to India, will go a long way in people-to-people contacts. And also in terms of the science and technology program that has been agreed upon, plus the space cooperation program, the digital MOU, and similarly the agreements that have been signed in the defense and maritime sphere, they're all going to contribute a lot to the growing ties between India and the Philippines.
Also, Ambassador Wadhwa, India's relationship with the Philippines, they also hold a special integral pillar of India's Act East policy, Vision Mahasagar and the vision of the Indo-Pacific. How this particular visit will help in embracing trade, development and security under India's Mahasagar vision?
So Philippines and India are both maritime powers, and India has a special focus now on connection with countries who lie in the path of its trading sea lanes, especially in the South China Sea, in the Indian Ocean, and also in the Pacific. And India is focused very much on this aspect of linking, these sea lanes together, making them secure for the future. And Philippines will play a very important role in that respect. It's a very important maritime nation in the ASEAN group of countries. And Philippines is also placed today to help India to play a major role in terms of liberalization of trade, having a review of the free trade agreement that India has with the ASEAN, and at the same time, it's lent its full support to India's fight against counterterrorism. So all these are very important gestures on the part of Philippines, and India will views Philippines as an important partner in that respect.
Right. And also after the year 2023, Philippines held a joint Navy exercise, and that too with India in the South China Sea. Does that reflect India and Philippines deepening maritime cooperation?
Absolutely, because, the maritime aspect has strengthened quite a bit in the past few years, and I gave you the background of why this has happened. But it's not just, the defense cooperation, but also in terms of the Coast Guard services coming together, both countries exercising together. As we speak today, there are 3 Indian naval vessels exercising with the Filipino, Navy. And at the same time, we also have now service-to-service cooperation. And today we saw the signature of 2 new MOUs for services cooperation, Army to Army and Navy to Navy. Now, all this is going to add up to this growing relationship that we have in security and defense, coupled with what has happened in the space field. And that's, again, space is a very important segment of the maritime domain awareness, which is growing between India and Philippines. India has also welcomed the presence of Philippines in its fusion center in Gurugram, along with other like-minded countries. So this is a big gesture, and we will see a lot of strengthening of cooperation in this particular field going forward.
Indeed, and also, the President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. also condemned the Pahalgam terror attack and extended support to India's fight against terrorism. How do you see this particular area of cooperation, understanding and deepening diplomacy between both the countries?
So Philippines was one of the countries that extended full cooperation and support to India when the Pahalgam terror attack happened. And since then, Philippines has constantly encouraged India to do its best to cooperate with others and also take whatever steps are necessary to counter the threat that India faces in this regard. Today, again, the president, while addressing the press, has once again reiterated the stand of Philippines, which is a very encouraging gesture from his part as far as India is concerned.
All right. Thank you so much, Ambassador Vatva, for joining us and bringing us a rounded perspective on India-Philippines bilateral ties and deepening cooperation in various sectors. Moving on, the National Democratic Alliance Parliamentary Party meeting held in New Delhi on Tuesday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and top NDA leaders, including Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Union Home Minister Amit Shah, attended the meeting. During the meeting, a resolution was passed unanimously by NDA MPs on the success of Operation Sindoor and Operation Mahadev. Condolences were given to the family members of the victims of Pahalgam terror attack. New MPs were also introduced to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Modi was welcomed and felicitated with a thunderous applause amid chants of Har Har Mahadev after the success of Operation Sindoor and Operation Mahadev at the NDA Parliamentary Party meeting. Now let's take a look at the key highlights of the resolution passed at the NDA Parliamentary meeting. While members lauded the exceptional leadership displayed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during these times. His unwavering resolve, visionary statesmanship and resolute command have not only steered the nation with purpose, but also ignited a renewed spirit of unity and pride in the hearts of all Indians. The Pahalgam terror attack saddened and enraged everyone. And in response to this, on the intervening night of the 6th and 7th May, India launched Operation Sindoor. Through military might and resolute leadership, justice was delivered, reaffirming that India does not forget and never forgives terror. It resonated with India's commitment to peace, zero tolerance towards terror, and commitment to do whatever it takes to uproot terrorist infrastructure if circumstances so demand. Well, after the NDA government assumed office in the year 2014, this has been the norm. The people of India have not forgotten how, prior to 2014, terror infrastructure was spread extensively across India. Bomb blasts across big cities, be it Patna, Bengaluru, Mumbai, Guwahati, Varanasi, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, and even Delhi were common. This change has been greatly appreciated by the people of India. Now, as the monsoon session of the Indian Parliament continues, reports of the department-related Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance is to be presented in the upper house of the Parliament. Also, reports of the department-related Parliamentary Standing Committee on Energy as well. The House is all set to take up the carriage of goods by sea bill. Bill is all set to provide the responsibilities, liabilities, rights and immunities. Moving on, August the 5th marks a historic turning point in India's constitutional and political journey. On this day in the year 2019, the Government of India revoked Article 370, ending the special status of Jammu and Kashmir, a move hailed by many as a step towards integration, equality and development. 6 years on, we look back at the constitutional transformation, the intense parliamentary debate and the positive changes on the ground. Here's a special report. Take a look.
Article 370 was introduced as a temporary provision in 1949, drafted by N. Gopalaswamy Iyengar. It granted special status to Jammu and Kashmir, allowing the state to have its own constitution, its own flag, and considerable autonomy, except in matters of defense, foreign affairs, and communication. This provision was based on the instrument of accession signed in 1947 by Maharaja Hari Singh after Pakistan-backed forces invaded the region. Over the decades, Article 370 created a unique constitutional setup, one that remained contentious. On August 5th, 2019, a decisive move was made, the government invoking the powers of the President under Article 371, issued a presidential order redefining the term Constituent Assembly to mean the Legislative Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. With the state under President's rule at the time, Parliament assumed legislative powers and passed concurrent resolutions in the Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, effectively abrogating Article 370 and rendering Article 35A inoperative.
अनुच्छेद 370 के खंड 3 द्वारा प्रदत्त शक्तियों का प्रयोग करते हुए राष्ट्रपति संसद की सिफारिश पर यह घोषणा करते हैं कि यह दिनांक जिस दिन भारत के राष्ट्रपति द्वारा इस घोषणा पर हस्ताक्षर किए जाएंगे और इसे सरकारी गैजेट में प्रकाशित किया जाएगा, उस दिन से अनुच्छेद 370 के सभी खंड लागू नहीं होंगे, सिवाय खंड 1 के नामक तदनुसार पढ़ा जाएगा.
It wasn't just a constitutional maneuver, it was a moment of high drama and passionate debate in the parliament. In the Lok Sabha, the resolution to revoke Article 370 was passed with 351 votes in favour and 72 against, with one abstention. The Jammu and Kashmir Reorganisation Bill 2019 was also cleared, paving the way to bifurcate the state into two union territories, Jammu and Kashmir with a legislature and Ladakh without one. A day earlier, Rajya Sabha had also passed a resolution marking an unprecedented constitutional development. In December 2023, the Supreme Court upheld the abrogation in a unanimous verdict, observing that Article 370 was always meant to be temporary. The court also stated that Jammu and Kashmir had no internal sovereignty separate from India, and the Indian constitution now fully applies to the region.
ये 370 से जम्मू कश्मीर का और विशेषकर घाटी के युवाओं का भला नहीं हुआ है. आतंकवाद के रास्ते पर जो युवा गए, सबको मैं तो जिनके मन में अलगाववाद की भी भावना है या 370 के लिए भी जो लोग सोचते हैं कि हमारा कुछ छिन गया, मैं सबको विनम्र भाव से कहना चाहता हूं ये सदन का उपयोग कर कि आप हिसाब किताब तो करिए कि आपको 370 से क्या मिला. रोटी मिली, शिक्षा मिली, सुख सुविधा रोजगारी मिली, आरोग्य मिला, क्या मिला 370 से? क्यों झुनझुना पकड़े हुए हो? 370 है, वो जाने से धीरे धीरे हम घाटी के सभी लोगों को अपने नजदीक ला पाएंगे. उनके मन के अंदर एक नई आशा, नया उमंग, वहां पर जो विकास होगा.
Since the abrogation, the region has witnessed significant decline in terror incidents, stone pelting and separatist violence. The improved national security and increased presence of central laws, the law and order situation has seen marked improvement. For the first time, several central welfare schemes became accessible to people of Jammu and Kashmir, especially to women, scheduled caste and other marginalized communities. Discriminatory local laws were repealed, bringing gender justice and social equity in line with the rest of India. Tourism, which is the backbone of the region's economy, has seen a sharp rise. New industrial schemes like Prime Minister's Development Package and the Industrial Development Scheme have attracted investments and created job opportunities for the local youth. As Jammu and Kashmir embarks on a new journey within the constitutional framework of India, the abrogation of Article 370 remains a watershed moment. A move once called bold and controversial is now credited by many for unlocking peace, prosperity and parity for the region. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, a lot has changed in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir since the application of Article 370 back in the year 2019. Kashmir has seen lots of positive developments, including reduction in terrorist activities by 70%, decline in civilian and police personnel deaths. Stone pelting and strikes have also dipped to zero, showing positive development in the youth of the valley. Government confiscated 347 properties, tightening nose on terror funding in the region, along with bans on several terrorist outfits. Also, there was a record voter turnout in 2024 Lok Sabha and Assembly elections after more than 3 decades. The valley also witnessed over 2 crore tourists in 2024. The region also boasts of an IIT, IIM, AIIMS and many government institutes and colleges to boost educational infrastructure. The government has also started many rail connectivity projects like Chenab Rail Bridge, Anji Ghat Bridge, Udhampur Srinagar Baramulla Rail Link, Sonmarg Tunnel Project and Sochila Tunnel Project that are boosting travel, tourism and transport in the region without any hassle. Now around 87% of villages now have 4G and 5G network connectivity as well. And now let's take a listen to some of the reactions we are getting in from the Union Territory.
How has Jammu and Kashmir changed for student community in past 6 years? What are the new things you are seeing?
Sir, definitely things are changing drastically. We can see the new opportunities are there. People are exploring new things and they're getting benefited out of the new schemes and new courses are being launched. I guess the main hurdles, main obstacles which were in the path of their success, they are now getting out and people are coming out and they are coming out, even they are leaving the conventional jobs, they are coming up with the new things because new opportunities are available for them. Now, alhamdulillah, things are changing. We are happy and we wish a positive change, and definitely a positive change is coming out, and the Kashmir is the eyewitness of that positive change.
What is your take on how new opportunities have come in the way of students of Kashmir?
If someone will say there is no change, I think he is in dreams. Change is there, and there is no lockdown. There are no protests. There are no calendars, and alhamdulillah, we are enjoying.
I'm a local of Kashmir, and what I have seen in the past few years that Kashmir is emerging as a new global place. It's having a place in the national, when we see overall Kashmir has developed in the past few years. Kashmir is not what it used to be. Everything is getting developed, whether it's the roads, whether it's the tourism, every aspect is enhancing. And I feel very proud to be a Kashmiri because every aspect in Kashmir is enhancing and it's getting better day by day.
And also, India is witnessing, the northern region especially is witnessing heavy rains and landslides as authorities rush to rescue and assist people affected by weather-related disasters. Continuous heavy rainfall in the hilly state of Himachal Pradesh is expected on Tuesday, with several districts on high alert as rivers and streams across the state swell dangerously. Flash floods and landslides have disrupted normal life, particularly in Chamba, Kullu, Mandi and Sirmaur districts. Several roads remain blocked due to landslides, hampering relief operations. The Meteorological Department has predicted more intense rainfall over the next 48 hours, warning of possible cloudburst in hilly terrains. Heavy rain alert continues in Uttarakhand as the Indian Meteorological Department has issued an orange alert for heavy rainfall in 7 districts of the state. School remains closed on Tuesday in Dehradun, Pauri, Tehri, Nainital, Champawat, Udham, Singhnagar and Bageshwar districts, including Anganwadi centres. In view of the heavy rain warning, holiday orders have been issued in many districts of the state. District administrations have been put on high alert, with disaster response teams and local authorities monitoring the situation closely. Meanwhile, heavy rains have triggered floods in various districts of Uttar Pradesh, prompting the government to take swift rescue actions. 14 teams of NDRF, 15 of SDRF and 48 of PAC have been deployed for preparedness. As many as 17 districts have been affected by the flood. Schools have been shut at many places and people are asked to remain on alert as Weather Department has issued orange alert for 15 districts of the state. Moving on, a recent SBI research report warns that US President Donald Trump's proposed tariffs on India could harm the US economy more than India's. Well, the report released on Friday, the 1st of August, predicts higher US inflation, a weaker dollar, a GDP decline, labeling the tariffs as a bad business decision. US consumers may face an extra $2,400 annually, with low-income households hit harder. India, diversifying its export markets, relies less on the US, which accounts for 20% of its exports. India supplies 47% of US generic drugs, and shifting production could cause shortages and price hikes. Now, Indian markets showed resilience despite US tariff threats, with the Sensex up 419 points at 81,018 and Nifty 50 gaining 157 points to 24,722. Metal and auto stocks led gains, while IndusInd Bank rose 5% after appointing a new CEO. The rupee hit a 6-month low of 87.43 against the dollar. Mid-caps lagged and stocks like DLF and Aurobindo Pharma fell post-results. The RBI's ongoing policy meeting and Q1 earnings from Bharati Airtel and Adani Ports are in focus. Global trade tensions and US rate cuts hope influence sentiment. And global stocks rose for a second day on Tuesday, with the SPY at $631.17 and VOO at $580.14 as investors anticipated Federal Reserve rate cuts following weak US jobs data. The Stock 600 gained 0.4% and Asia Pacific shares rose 0.8%. The US dollar steadied, up 0.2% on the dollar index. Oil prices fell to $68.45 a barrel amid OPEC plus output hikes, while gold hit $3,375. Trump's tariff threats on India and Fed politicization concerns added market uncertainty. Strong services PMIs in Japan and China signaled economic resilience, while investors awaited Eurozone and US data. You're watching the India News Hour. Now it's time to get you all the latest action from the world of sports. To begin with cricket first, India scripted a remarkable comeback to pull a famous 6-1 victory at the Oval, denying England the series victory. In the last session of the day 4, India managed to pick 3 wickets, and on day 5, India took the last 4 wickets in under an hour to bowl England out for 367. Siraj was India's hero, dismissing Jamie Smith, Jamie Overton and Gus Atkinson to complete a 5-wicket haul. Siraj produced a brilliant Yorker to dismiss the last English batter and earn India their narrowest ever Test victory. Following his side's victory, Indian skipper Shubman Gill hailed Test cricket as the most rewarding and satisfying format.
Test cricket should be as it is. It's in my opinion, it is the most rewarding and satisfying format. You work the hardest to be able to get a win. And the best thing about this format is it always gives you a second chance, which none of the other formats give. So if you keep working hard, if you keep doing the right things, there is always a second chance.
You know, toe-to-toe pretty much, well, for 25 days. You know, 2 teams, 2 very good teams who have, you know, thrown everything at each other, left nothing out there. You know, so I guess from a cricket fans' point of view, you sort of go 2-2 is probably fair. Obviously, we're disappointed now to have not got the result that we wanted to give us a series win.
Moving on to chess, India's R. Vaishali suffered eliminated from the Women's Speed Chess Championship after losing to America's Alice Lee in the opening round. Lee came from behind to beat Vaishali by 8-6 to progress to the quarterfinals. Vaishali dominated the initial segments of the game. However, Lee bounced back in later segments and won 4 games on the trot to seal the victory. Grandmaster Divya Deshmukh, fresh off a historic FIDE World Cup triumph, is the other Indian in the field. The 19-year-old faces Chinese GM Li Tingzhe in her first round clash on the 11th of August. The Speed Chess Championship is an online event featuring a single elimination bracket with 16 players. In tennis, Germany's Alexander Zverev will clash with Karen Khachanov in the semi-finals of Canadian Open on Thursday. The world number 3, Zverev, won the tournament in 2017 but failed to go past quarter-final stage since then. Zverev reached his 21st Masters 1000 semi-final by defeating the defending champion Alexei Popyrin in the quarter-finals. Meanwhile, Karen Khachanov advanced to semi-finals for the 3rd time following a victory against Alex Michelsen. Khachanov is the 7th man to reach 3 or more semi-finals at the event this century. Khachanov will have to dig deep against Zverev in the semis as the latter leads the overall head-to-head by 5-2. In women's singles category, former Wimbledon champion Elena Rybakina and teenager Victoria Bukuk have advanced to the semi-finals of the Canadian Open. Rybakina reached the semi-finals after her quarter-final opponent retired in the second set with a wrist injury. Meanwhile, Boko secured a surprising straight-set victory over Spain's Jessica to reach her first WTA 1000 semi-final. 7 of the top 10 players were eliminated before the quarterfinals, opening the door for such upstarts as the 18-year-old Boko. Both the players will clash in the semi-finals of the tournament on Thursday. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code to download it right now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Deepika, and from all of us here in New Delhi, thank you so much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.